All right. Welcome back to another episode of Explicit Measures Podcast. We are all still wearing the same shirts and have the same stuff on because we're pre-recording this episode, so we apologize.
Don't you guys ever shower?
Don't you guys ever leave?
We've been planning so much.
We've been up for 48 hours straight.
Actually, we haven't recorded any. We haven't actually been live for any of the podcasts for the entire 150 episodes we've done. They've all been recorded, and we just recorded.
Really good at assuming.
Recorded 3 weeks of content all at once in the very beginning, and this is all just a recording. You're in a simulation.
We actually finished this back in 21. So.
we just predicted a lot of good
We
things.
just knew who was going to show up and who to pick out of the chat.
Amazing. Awesome. So we're going through a series right now, just these the last two episodes, the last one and this episode. This is a pre-recorded episode, so we're just kind of doing this one. For pre-recorded, we have people traveling. I'll be going to a conference over in Denmark, so I'll be traveling during this time. That's why we're doing some pre-recordings. Tommy, you're traveling too, so you won't be here either.
Well, traveling to my basement, but I got a 3-day training, so there ain't no time for you guys.
Oh, that's true. You'll be working during this time, so yeah. No time for us. That's okay. So we're going through a series right now. We're going to answer some of our mailbag questions. So for those of you who don't know what our mailbag is, if you go to powerbi.tips/podcast, there's a form at the bottom where you can ask questions about your thoughts, and you want us to, ask us a question, and we'll kind of maybe react to them. We kind of slowly groom through these, and we'll see how these episodes go. If this goes well, we'll maybe do some more dedicated episodes, or maybe some more mailbag questions around this. So we've got another one.
For real.
For reals. So this one's around the need for a graphic designer. This is a good one. I really like this question. But I'm not going to read it.
Yeah.
I'm going to kick this one over to Tommy, because Tommy's going to do the reading.
That's my thing.
Oh, sorry.
I did this on Tuesday, Mike. I wanted to claim a space for myself within the podcast. This was the thing, and now you're just farming it out already.
Tuesday was literally 45 minutes ago.
Yeah,
okay.
Right?
I literally forgot in 15 minutes.
Jeez.
Golly day.
Part of our job is active listening skills. I feel
like explicit listening podcast guys.
I feel, Mike, that sometimes when I talk, you don't pay attention to what I'm saying.
Sometimes it just sounds like wah 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 wah.
I'm sure it does to a lot of people.
The Charlie Brown teacher is what I'm thinking of. Is
yeah.
Mike's
all right.
Anyway,
I apologize. Back on track. Seth. If you wouldn't mind, read the question for us.
Oh, I'd love to.
Mailbag.
I'd love to. This person talks like I do. How I write emails. For sure. It's like all bullet point, just random but cohesive thoughts. So let me see if I can get this right.
All right, do it.
Design practices. Colors are somewhat relevant to brand, company, and not really part of the discussion. Is graphic design a skill set needed? Would help from marketing be beneficial? What not to do? How many pages, slices are too many? Bookmark alternatives for some page, some graph, diff data access. Cheers, guys.
Thanks, caller.
Thanks, caller anonymous. We appreciate you calling into this episode. Well, we will help support you emotionally as we work through this topic.
Tip for the mailbag.
How does this one make you feel, Tommy?
A little disappointed. No,
I like honestly. I like the rapid fire. Like they thought this out. I like the rapid fire points on here. It's very short and to the point. This is literally how you write emails, Seth. I'm 100%.
Quick tip for the mailbag people: when you write one, this is all great, but stick to one topic. We can't handle a lot. There's like 7 episodes here. 4.
Wow,
the bookmarks and slicers and graphics.
The second one that you're just like peeling apart, man. Like you want to go deep in
everything. This is just cursory. We're just
why are we here then, man?
That's a good question, Tommy. Why are we here?
I got deep again? Didn't even mean to. So this is a fun one.
Let's start at the beginning of this thing. I want to start at the beginning. They're somewhat relevant to brand and company? I would argue the coloring schema of things is not so much relevant to just brand and company. I mean, I think you want aftertones. I think if you want good looking reports, I think you want to add some tones to the company brand and weave that into your report design. I think it just makes it really polished.
Have you guys ever worked with a graphic designer?
I have a graphic
graphic designer.
Yes.
So my best friend, known him for years, he's a graphic designer, and he helped do some of this stuff for my consulting gig. And we had some calls, and the way he thought it was felt to me like The Matrix or A Beautiful Mind, like things we would never think of when you're talking about
the other side of the brain.
The other side of the brain, especially when it comes to colors. It's like I talked to him going, so here's what filter context is. And he would not.
He's like, what?
Yeah. But the conversations on, I chose this blue for this reason. I mean, I would say the majority of us, that's beyond the pay grade and really just beyond something we really comprehend. So we usually deal with like the company branding. We put together a theme generator using a color palette, and it's fine. But you're dealing with a whole other layer that honestly, I would not expect a BI developer or a report creator to even understand.
All right, so let's
Have you met us, Tommy? Do you realize like the first 2 years of Power BI tips was all themes and colors and the importance of layouts and templates?
I understand that there's a need.
Well, let's pick on our brains here, right?
Okay.
Tommy, which side of the brain do you align to? The left side, I think is what they're saying on this left brain, is thinking in words, sequencing, linear thinking, mathematics, facts, and logic. Or the right side of the brain would be feelings, visualization, imagination, intuition, rhythm, holistic thinking, and the arts.
That's not what I'm talking about here.
No, but this is totally what it is.
No, I'm talking about the skill of graphic design and color theory. That's not just the side of the brain. It probably helps, but the skill of applying colors. That's not just data visualization.
I would say so. It could be a learned skill. I'm just trying to say. What side do you? What side? I think we're going to have an interesting divergence.
I like where you're going with this, Mike.
Of each of us. So, Tommy, where's your brain? Which side of the brain are you? Actually, Tommy, you say what you think you are, and I'll tell you I'll tell you what I think you are.
You said a lot of things at once, so I'm ask again.
All right, what side of the brain do you think you are? Left or right?
You need a description of left or right again.
Yeah, that's kind of why I was,
Okay, the description. Left side, thinking in words, sequencing, linear thinking, mathematics, facts, and logic. All right, right side of the brain, your feelings, visualization, imagination, intuition, rhythm, holistic thinking, and arts.
I think obviously there's not 100%, but I'm probably leaning much more right.
Okay.
To be completely honest.
And the right side. Okay. Your intuition, rhythm. So give me some examples. What's when Tommy's thinking about these words, give me some examples of what Tommy does that invokes imagination, intuition, rhythm, and holistic thinking and arts.
I think for me, I've always thought in what affects an outcome, like the variables, and that's always how my brain's operating. Whether it's driving to work, like, why did it take that long? Or whenever we're having conversations, like, well, what else is part of this? Why did he say that? And I'm always tinkering in my head, like it doesn't stop. I would love it to stop, but it doesn't stop in terms of what if we did this, if he said this. I'm at 10 steps ahead and not realizing how to get back sometimes. But a big part of that is the imagination and intuitiveness for me is is this actually a good idea? Not just for me, and really thinking like watching people's facial expressions. That's huge for me. So I think I definitely lean more on the right-hand side. There's obviously more to that, but it's very much, I'm always asking the why and what affects it and what could be done to tinker that.
To me, it feels like you described a lot of left brain things in that statement, but we'll leave it at that. Seth, what side of the brain do you feel like you sit on?
Well, I don't. Well, Dr.
I hope you're going to say what I think you're going to say, because I'm pretty sure I know what side of the brain you feel like you think you're on.
I'm about, I think, at 80-20.
Okay. 80-20 left. 80%.
Heavy right.
Yeah, heavy right.
Heavy right. Okay. I like to think that the 20 is logic and facts, but it's probably a large byproduct of holistic thinking, and holistic, like WHO or HO.
WHOL.
Holistic, right?
Holistic.
So if you and I talk a lot about, like, I love the big picture,
yes,
and how all of those things intertwine with one another. Yep. And in order to be there, like you've got to have a lot of like follow the threads, logical, thinking of putting together processes, etc. But like in general, like, no, man, I'm not a numbers guy. Like,
And
books and
you have to say,
imagination.
yeah, you
right?
have to
Like, yeah.
well, yeah. And
for a ton of like Power BI tips and themes and colors,
you
and
an
layouts,
art major,
yeah,
Seth.
exactly. I know.
I'm like,
Sure.
literally your major's on the
love the
right side of
creative
the
side.
brain. That's
Yes.
you.
Exactly
It has to be you. So okay.
Exactly right.
This is okay. So I'm gonna probably say I'm a little bit more left brain. No, I'm probably more right brain than left, but I'm not a split 20-80 like you said, Seth. I would probably be more a split like 40-60, maybe a little bit higher on the creative side. So rhythm, I'm a drummer. So I have rhythm. At least I think I like to think I have rhythm. Maybe it's a different kind of rhythm they're defining, but I'm thinking like rhythm, like I'm hitting on stuff. So love music. Definitely lean a lot on my intuition. 100%. Like I definitely feel I lean on that maybe more so than I should, but I definitely am there. Not so much on the art side. Definitely like facts. Definitely like logic. Totally enjoy mathematics. And I'm a super linear thinker. I really like I write lists. Instead, even this question is linearly thought. So this person, if we're dissecting the question, we have a bulleted list of items we're talking about. So that is as linear as we can possibly get. Anyways, okay. I'm thank you for divulging and taking a moment to decompress our brains.
Now that we know each other a little better.
Words. You are left brain.
We're all using words.
I just have vocabulary.
That's true too. You're just smarter than I am. That's basically what it boils down to. Awesome. So back to color themes, right? So yeah, is a graphic design a needed skill set?
So back to color things. I think where the color, I like that we were calling them colors. The poster seems to trivialize color is surprising to me, or it speaks to that maybe that's not a skill set that they have. Color is a huge part of graphic design.
I would not minimize it.
Yeah, it's a huge part of how receptive or like what you're trying to convey in an application or on a report.
I would totally agree with that. Tommy, what are your thoughts?
Oh, I think he's trying to say there. I actually honestly took that a different way. Where
I know
when we're designing it, yeah, of course. So
because you're all left brain. I know, I get it.
Yeah, I'm 100% something. Don't put me in a corner. But honestly, to me, he really took it as like you shouldn't just have to always focus on the company's colors, right? It's like the colors are somewhat relevant to the brand, but that's not what we should be focusing on. Where it's like, here's the company's colors, use those colors. That's not always the case.
Yep.
I don't know if you need
incorporate them in a subtle way,
right?
Sure.
In a subtle way.
Correct. I think somebody even brought that up at the conference. At the conference a week ago, that like if your company colors are red, you don't want to blast red into all of your headers and stuff like that because it's bad, right? Like typically we equate red with bad in or negative numbers.
No, and I think that's 1,000%.
I was working on a project for Under Armour recently. Well, actually, not recently. A while ago, I was working on a project for Under Armour, and their brand logos are super. Black, red is kind of like their design schema, and you couldn't really do like a whole bunch of visuals in black and red, so we had to like play a little bit around with the colors to make it a bit more easy because red typically indicates something's wrong. So you don't want a bunch of bar charts with a bunch of red all over them. That's not going to look good, or it's not going to indicate the right message you're trying to convey. So
and I think our ability. Go ahead. I
was gonna say I want to lean on both your guys' points here because I definitely think that you don't want to focus on the company colors in the bar chart itself. I don't think they need to be there. I do think on the report page, I'm thinking about like a scrim or a background or a layout of that object on the page, and I'm trying to incorporate the company colors and or logo on the page somewhere. So there's maybe like a gradient of the company colors or something else that's going on the page. I find that adds a lot more polish to the report and makes it really pop. And you still have that brand tie, and then you're adding to that color palette, a color palette that is a complementary to those company colors. So it's kind of still the same vein or the same theme, but I 100% agree. If you have data elements on the page where there's a column named a certain color, and you're going to have two visuals with color in them,
that color better match between both visuals. You better be thinking about how to convey color across visual elements on the report page. And when there's too many different topics of information on a page, you have to start graying stuff out. So I'm finding what I'm doing is I'm building one, maybe two visuals across the page that have similar color palette schemas. And then any other visual is like a grayed out version of a color theme, because then it's neutral. It doesn't align to those colors. You don't want to blend company that has a color with the region that has the same color. That doesn't make sense. Is that whole company in that same region? You add confusion.
So you're just engineering art right now, just so you know. So you're totally right. But no, I think you have a really good
That's
point.
my 60%.
Yeah. But the really good point where just because you have the company colors, there is amazing amount of resources and wisdom and education around design visualization from a color point of view, design theory. And there's a difference between color theory and data visualization theory when it comes to colors. And I think we try to always combine like, oh, they're the same thing. If I just use the quadratic or, like the teriatic, whatever, it'll work in my designs. That is not how it works. And I think that's where we can lead to some of the confusion where you're like, yeah, I'm using color theory, but it doesn't look good in a report. There's a difference between being artistic and expressive and the other part of also understanding, truly like an understanding what colors work well from a visual point of view for data. We're not trying to make
I agree. I'm also chuckling because we're taking about 10 minutes of color discussion in theory when like he doesn't, or the person doesn't want it to be.
He's actually like, color theory out the window, and we're going right in.
This is what we just do with whatever you send us.
So I think that this speaks to the point.
Back on track.
It is important though. So I want to just make the point. I think color is important. I think he's undermining the value of the color across the palette.
So, and then the other part though is that the graphic design skill set and the marketing side. I want to touch on this since obviously we have a little more condensed, but I really pushed in a few other projects to get marketing more involved from a logo or branding point of view, like and not just reports with the Power BI apps from an icon point of view. Like, hey, if this is a sales report, can we get like some sales icon, like, dealing with the company brand, or to upload that in our Power BI app? There's, I think, a whole professional side of this that I'm really taking this outside of just design theory. And it's really more like that other layer of polish, not just what's on the bar chart, but the whole experience for the user.
Do you guys find that though? So I would say, is graphic design skill set needed? Yeah, absolutely. It'd be fantastic to have, but it's more often in a UI UX skill set. Do you guys find that companies are more apt to have a marketing thing that you're assuming people in there would know, or like have some input as opposed to UI UX? Because that's typically like when we're developing products.
Yes.
Right? I would want that graphic design skill set in a person who's used to building artifacts that people engage with. You know what I'm saying? To me, that's different.
I think marketing. I think marketing is more geared towards selling the right things and getting people to click on or engage with content that's already out there. So I think marketing will have a design eye to know what is appealing and what is good. I'm not necessarily sure I'm leaning on marketing to tell me, like, they could give me like here's what I would think of a marketing person. Here's a bunch of designs, and here's a bunch of themes, and help me put together the appealing portion of what this report should look like. That's what I would lean on marketing to figure out with me. Whether or not the button is the right shade and the drop shadow, and like if I click on this, what's the interaction of that click? And like, to me, that's a UX UI designer, and that's where you're spending more time around. So the experience of the report, that's what that UX UI designer piece could give you. And I'm pretty good around. I feel like I've got a pretty good skill set around the UI UX standpoint. But what I like to see from customers is, give me examples of things you like. Show me stuff that looks good to you, that is appealing to your eye, that has the right colors, and like, give me some images that are your favorites. Just a pretty picture, colors that you like, and we can pluck from that and leverage those colors into the palette or the report that we're building here. But I'm not sure I would really use a marketing person to do this. I would be focusing more on marketing or UI UX people.
To me, I think it really goes back to one of our bigger conversations around the user story, where you're right. I agree with marketing. They're trying to tell a very narrow linear story. It starts with this pamphlet or this ebook, and we're trying to get you to understand why, because why is always constant in that book. It's text. But we talked about usually when we're creating our reports, we're not creating a singular report for only at one point in time. It's something that is dynamic, it's flexible because the data changes. So we really can't do that exact same application of design and UI that marketing does for a landing page, right? The landing page does not automatically change without their knowledge on what, how far like a form is, right? Because our numbers adapt and change. The business changes. So that's going to affect that design. We have to, I think, always start with, again, even if it doesn't look as pretty as someone who is a graphic designer, is the audience able to get the answers and what they're trying to do out of that report? They're going to that report for a reason. As long as you apply general, standards of design theory, data visualization theory, that are, again, even if you don't have that skill set, if you're have none of that, you can at least read about it and apply basic practices. As long as you can do that, but help answer the questions, we've done our job, to me, and more.
So I think that's the distinction, right? In my mind, there can we accomplish this, and can we do a job without this skill set? Yes, you can.
Yeah.
I
But
think
educate yourself.
when
Go
you
find
have an
good looking
opportunity-
stuff to educate yourself with it, right?
when you have an opportunity to
Yeah.
work with or increase your skill sets in that, work with somebody who has these skills in UI UX, you begin to understand that we are really only scratching the surface of how far you can take Power BI as it relates to generating reports that people absolutely love, and get more use out of than somebody without those skill sets. So the more you increase your knowledge around them, the better your reports become, because you're cognizant of other factors that influence how somebody is perceiving and receiving the insights that you're trying to convey. So skill up in there, I think it's really important. I do believe that the graphic design and UI UX elements are part of a team if you can, have it, if you need it. But it's also in a realm where you need your reporting to be one-upped, right?
We didn't even cover
Or
the
you
last
want-
part of this question, so I'll give you the quick rapid fire answers. I think we're going to revisit this topic again. Do we need a graphic designer? Because I think this is a good heavy topic.
Like,
and then
do we
also
need the DBA one, right?
Yeah. It's it also says what not to do, right? How many pages? Slicers are too many. Pages I'm not worried about. Slicers are a problem. Every time I look at slicers, you're cutting into the report page. Minimize it. And then last thought here on, bookmark alternatives for the same page, same graph, different data access. I would use calculated, the new parameters, field parameters. Field parameters solve some of that problem where you don't need to have bookmarks, but I'm not loving bookmarks. It's harder to edit them. So I would try to design out bookmarks as much as possible and use them only when necessary. All right. With that, thank you all very much. We appreciate you listening to the podcast. Another short episode. Got to run. People got to be places and do things. So we thank you very much. Please, 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 if you like what you're seeing here, if you like the content, if your mix gives you a couple laughs, we'd love for you to share the content. Please share the content. Tommy, where else can you find the podcast?
You can find the podcast anywhere they're available. Apple, Spotify. We did have a very similar we've had a few conversations about design and the application of Power BI. And again, it's a little short. Check it out. Just scroll through or search. Most apps can do that. Share the word. That helps it out a ton.
Awesome. Thank you all so much, and we'll see you soon.